We're looking for an update on the success of our experiment with the granting of food concession permits for motorized carts, and also the permit granted to create Pier NYC, which is on the space across from the subway station in the West Channel.
Essentially, we've had a couple months to kind of
Donna?
review. Yes, Donna.
Donna
Masley, yes. We've had a couple, hello everyone. We've had a couple months to see how this is all sort of going. This is a little bit of a new proposal. We've had about roughly 10 relatively serious inquiries as far as mobile food vending. The only 3 that we have done have been a dessert truck, a pizza truck, and hibachi sort of food. They were the ones who were willing to commit to the $345 for the monthly permits. And they seemed relatively happy here. We lost a lot of possible vendors in that they weren't necessarily willing to commit to the $345 for the month. And essentially, these 3 that took the 3 spots, they were the only 3 spots that anybody was interested in. They didn't want to be by the tram or any other locations on the island. This was where everybody wanted to be. So, it's been an interesting experiment. I've sort of put together a little bit of the way that I think it would be best to move forward with it.
In October, just update everybody in October.
We currently don't have any mobile food vendors for October.
Whatever the weather or whatever we decide not to do.
So I don't think by any means that this is a failure. I think there are definite ways that we can improve upon this and bring some interesting things to the island. So I just sort of put together a little memo as far as the way that I think it might be best moving forward.
Oh, I guess not.
Yeah. I sort of, sorry, the sidebar hasn't been updated, but
Oh, that's fine.
yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Basically, I sort of went through step by step and just explained some of the concerns for the local businesses, and the idea that there really isn't a possibility for the variety that was sort of the goal. The way that I think that this will work better for what will essentially be next year, because now that we're getting into the fall and winter, I don't see the demand there. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But the way that I kind of see this working a little better is if we eliminate the $345 monthly permits and instead establish a daily rate, but not a daily rate in the way that we had discussed at a previous meeting. This daily rate would be sort of a vendor would apply and they'd say, I want to come on Mondays and Wednesdays, or I want to come on Fridays only. And essentially they'd pay for a month, but they'd only pay for the days that they would be there. So we established this $30 daily rate. And
This is just by the subway stop.
and this is only the 3 spots by the subway. They're the only ones that anybody seems to want, so it seems smart to localize it to that location. They'd essentially pay the $30 per day that they would be here. But if they're only planning on being here on a Monday and a Wednesday, they would pay for 2 days a week. So they pay $60 a week, essentially $240 for the month. What this sort of allows is for other vendors to then come in and say, in that same spot, they'll be able to permit Tuesdays, or Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. So you're creating more of a variety, and at the same time, you're keeping the costs down a little bit for the trucks that see it as a concern. That was sort of my mindset. On the last page, I made a little diagram of how it is now, and how it's just a scenario of how it could be. And they're, you know, if it pans out, and I have hopes that it might, you'll get some different types of foods here. Vendors will be a little more willing to commit on a monthly basis if it's a lower rate and it's only on certain days, which is essentially what we heard all along, that they only wanted to be here once or twice a week. So that was kind of my thinking with this.
Okay, so this would allow, 4 times 30, 120 so for 120, the vendor would basically have a slot 1 day a week and see how it goes. So, it seems like an interesting idea.
Isn't basically this what we talked about, only with some association running it for us, the same kind of,
Essentially,
same principle, right?
it's the same idea. The Food Truck Association wanted a certain percentage of the money that would come to us, so it might be a little difficult to keep track of them and on our end, so it's.
Oh, I'm sure there'd be no problem.
I mean, I use a really wonderful scheduling program that would make this relatively painless.
And I
So-
think one of the existing food vendors at the time was gonna be managing it also.
Right.
It's kind of like a little, like conflict we thought, so. That was the two issues, that they didn't think there would be much of an interest also, I think they kind of, right?
Yeah.
The people want trucks in the other spots where there's been no interest, the you people being the real estate people.
Did anyone want?
No,
No,
what I'm hearing from Donna is only where we've seen the
One of
two
those
trucks
three.
is the only place. The other places, like maybe near the tram, nobody wants to go to.
The tram is pretty well established with our
Carmel?
Mr. Softy,
Mhm.
and they have actually another permit application in the works that's a little tied up right now, but nobody has expressed any sort
They're
of interest.
thinking about
in that.
putting a coffee
Like a
cart.
cart.
or
So what are you
something.
gonna do, Mr. Softy's gonna continue at 345?
Those who are established right now, Mr. Softy, the fruit vendor, would continue paying their $3.45. They're here every day, essentially. And so they would sort of fall in under the old rules. Anybody new, and again, it's just for those 3 spots, anybody new would sort of fall in under this.
What happened with the food vendor? He tried out a spot near the tram.
He had trouble finding personnel, and he just didn't like the location in general, so
Isn't the food vendor already near the tram?
he's by the subway now.
Subway.
Oh, the subway,
Yeah.
right, on the tram.
And I think
My bad.
the tram was closed for about a week or two during, when he was there. So I think it kind of, I think we refunded him too.
Yeah,
also for
he was
closed.
there a couple days, and
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, because we
No
didn't
business.
realize it was gonna be closed, off peak, and kind of, he was just sitting there, pretty much, so.
yeah.
And Mr. Softy, you know, he's grandfathered in while he's selling ice cream, but if he starts with coffee or anything, I assume everything changes, right? Because then.
I would assume so.
That'll be like a separate permit.
That would make
Right,
sense.
okay.
Yeah, unless he's, not gonna do the ice cream.
Okay, well, I think this might be a very good experiment, increasing the flexibility. This is something that we're really tinkering with. So, yeah, maybe do you have any reaction to it? Rick O'Connor,
Would you consider allowing food trucks that haven't been here a 3 months waiver as you did the other trucks so that they could establish their business here like the other trucks did?
I don't think that would be necessary because it would be much cheaper to
$30
pick
a
a day,
day.
yeah, and just give it a shot in that case. Everyone will still have to go through our approval process. They can't just come on the islands. They will still have to submit all their documentation for the city and get approval from us ahead of time. But once they do that, then, yeah.
and is there a separate fee for people? Okay, so basically $30 they can give it a try, and they have to fill out the paperwork, and we have to review the paperwork and check the paperwork. So to trying it 1, 2, 3 times, it doesn't seem like a very high threshold. Okay. I'm sorry, Margie, we
Yeah,
changed
no,
the
that's
order.
okay, I just thought you guys are moving right along here.
I know, you-
I was very impressed.
You were surprised, but no.
That would have been a miracle, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, I think this would be a good experimental try. I'll poll the board, the committee, and then we'll see if we would authorize this. So I move that we authorize this modification and see how this goes.
That's it. I agree.
Okay, so, go,
Wonderful.
okay.
What a nice start to the weekend.
And we were also going to talk about